Welcome to today's show, guys. I am your host, Eric Darnley Small, and thank you for joining me on today's show. I am doing something that's a little bit, again, different from what I normally try to do here. Today's show is going to be almost like last week's show, where I'm going to go a little bit behind the curtains here and go into a little bit about something that I find fascinating that I'm going to track, that I'm going to do on this show, that you probably haven't heard about it unless it's something that piques your interest. And that is essentially what is going on in Hollywood. And just to sort of let the audience know, I used to work in the entertainment industry. I had gotten my bachelor's in California at Cal State, and got it in communications, and then interned, and then later on worked in the industry for about a decade, give or take. And it was always, to me, an industry that was very fraught, that was very unstable. It really hung by a thread in terms of your ability to be successful and to get regular work. And I left because eventually that ran out, and other people did as well. Your luck runs out, and your connections, for whatever reason, run out. And the time when I was in there, I was specifically in television. And the time that I was in television, you might call it, quote unquote, peak TV, what they call now peak TV. And by that, it means a time in which television was really dominant in terms of entertainment in the home. Um, you had people who Seinfeld and Cheers, and those are the kinds of shows that when I was growing up, people just sort of all over the place went, and it was one-stop shopping. If you wanted to do a show, you had to do it at the major networks. Then cable came in later on, but now you have streaming. And what has happened, and I've talked about this a little bit before, what has happened with streaming is it has changed the model that you can use today in Hollywood. There's a lot going on with respect to that. I don't want to go into all the details regarding that, but just know that what has happened with streaming, people, I think, thought with, and by streaming I'm talking about Netflix, I'm talking about Paramount Plus, I'm talking about Disney Plus, I'm talking about all of the apps now that have entertainment built into them, and you can stream on your phone or tablet or on your home TV, YouTube TV as well. But what has happened is that back in the day, it was extremely, not just, sort of glamorous to be working in television. It was fairly lucrative. You could make a good living, raise a family, and everything, particularly as a writer, or, in the three major guilds: writer, director, and actors. But it turns out that the times have changed dramatically, particularly from when I was there. And, I want to spend this episode talking about this, not only because it's something in the industry that I find fascinating personally, something that I actually saw coming. I think a lot of people actually saw this coming. They thought it was a good thing, and now it's kind of bit them. But also, this has to do with unions. This has to do with the Democratic Party. This has to do with California. This is another example in another place wherein the Democrats, if they don't figure this thing out, particularly in California, you're going to have another wave of people who are going to leave the state because they cannot afford to live in the state. You're going to have a wave of shows, perhaps, that are going to move out of the state because it's too, you can't find the talent because no one can afford to live there. So let me just go into this story, and it is called, you know, uh, and this is from the industry trade, the Hollywood Reporter, and it's called "Hollywood is Inherently Financially Unstable for Writers, Survey Finds." And this is one of two stories I want to talk about, because this story was about 2 weeks ago, and this story specifically talks about the writers guilds and writers. The second story is going to talk about IATSE, which is your crew members, right? So this was a survey done. This came out about 2 weeks ago, and it goes into writers and the changes that are happening to writers. And I found this absolutely shocking and surprising. And when you wonder why your favorite TV show may not be, coming back, what was the writer strike all about? What was going on there? And could there be another strike on the way that will further push back your favorite shows from coming back. This article goes into the structural issues with regard to the industry. And then the next article goes into what is happening right now with union members in Hollywood amongst their crew. The crew are, you've got a much wider division between those who are making a lot of money and those who are barely making it amongst IATSE. But first, I'm going to go into this. This is just a study that was done to find out about the living conditions of writers, and the subline is over 500 respondents working in TV and film screenwriting reveal how financial hardship affected their access to food before and during the 2023 strike. So this is a story about specifically writers, both in TV and film. So it goes on. Let me see something here. I don't know why I'm not getting my 1 second here. All right, having a little technical difficulty. Let me just take a look, and I'm going to filibuster while I'm doing this. So, actually, hold on a second. I think I may have gotten it going. No, I have not. Trying to get the next slideshow to show, and it does not appear to want to do that. And I'm not certain why. Guys, I'm going to go back to the countdown very quickly, just to see if I can work on this one technical issue, and I will be right back. 1 second. Okay, I think I've got it now. Let me get into this. Get into the story right now. So, again, this is from the Hollywood Reporter. Title is Hollywood is Inherently Financially Unstable for Writers, Survey Finds. It says, this is from February 14th, 2024. This was about 2 weeks ago. A new community survey from Humanitas is offering a first of its kind look into the state of food insecurity within the TV and film writing industry. Published by the nonprofit behind the Humanitas Prize, New Voices, College Screenwriters Award, and a slate of public programs, the Groceries for Writers Food Insecurity Survey results are some of the only known data specifically addressing the conditions and impacts of insufficient access to food and the quality of diet among emerging and professional part-time and full-time, as well as union and non-union screenwriters working predominantly in the U.S. Humanitas survey analysis determined that nearly 2/3 of writers said they sometimes, often, or always worried about having enough food for themselves and or their families, with 60.7% reporting they skipped meals due to the lack of resources. Around 77% of respondents shared that food insecurity was causing some or a significant impact on their mental health, alongside 64.6% who indicated food insecurity similarly impacted their physical health. Now, just to pause there for a moment, again, we are talking about people who are working in a multi-billion-dollar industry. And they are unable to find food. In some cases, worried about food insecurity. You know, we're talking about the basics of life. This is not, they have a second house and they can't afford to make their second house payment, or they can't afford to buy a sports car. This is talking about around 77% of respondents shared that food insecurity was causing some or significant impact on the mental health. I just want to sort of, I want to pause on that, because I don't know of any other industry that I can think of off the top of my head that is part of a multi-billion-dollar industry where you have that much insecurity amongst people who are the top of the line, almost at, almost at the head. They would represent one of, and this says both union and non-union. But writers are a key factor in movie making and TV making, and the average writer is, according to the survey, has food insecurities. It's a stunning thing, and and again, I'm going to go back into this. I'm going to mention this again, but when we talk about why it is Joe Biden is not getting credit for the economy, and we're talking about all these studies, we've got unemployment at the lowest ever. We've got all of this infrastructure going in. We've got the stock market is booming. Writers are inherently freelancers. They don't have a 401k at the end of the day. The health care is provided by their union if you are a part of the union. You don't have a big retirement fund and everything. So these writers, freelance artists, are really only able to make it insofar as they're able to find work, steady work. If you cannot find steady work, you will not make it. And again, I'm talking from personal experience, having been in the entertainment industry and worked in there, that finding work and good work that pays is extremely important, and it be long term work. That's why there was a strike. And I don't want to get into, there's another story out there about AI and what AI is going to do and how that's going to really disrupt the entertainment industry, unlike, much faster than a lot of other industries. But going back to this article, with more than 30,000 writers comprising the Writers Guild East and West alone, Daniel Plagans, the Humanitas program director who served as the survey's lead writer and analyst, acknowledges that the 500-person survey is not statistically representative of the wider screenwriting community, but the results, which have a margin of error of plus or minus 4.1%, still signals food insecurity is an issue among this population of people. The survey found that in the last year, around 51% of respondents could not afford to eat balanced meals. During that same period, about 42% of all writers said that they had to choose between buying food and paying for other essentials like rent, utilities, and medical bills. Notably, two-thirds of the survey's respondents were WGA members, with Frankie noting that a union card is not a golden goose. According to the Humanitas executive director, the data indicates WGA, as well as other professional and emerging non-WGA writers, are struggling as certain issues, especially like at the staffing levels, hadn't been resolved for years prior to the 2023 strike. It's a position underscored by the approximate 42% of all TV and film respondents, whether in a guild or not, reported that their answers around food insecurity were not impacted by the work stoppage. The survey generally found that the writers working in film and TV who identified as POC, which is I think people of color, or mixed, disabled, and or neurodivergent, reported higher rates of food insecurity. Lower level TV writers, job performance, physical and mental well-being as well were reported as being significantly impacted at higher percentages than their EP and producer level writing counterparts. One aspect of the feature writing experience revealed something slightly different, with a large percentage of scribes who earn their primary income from writing versus those who don't report somewhat or significant mental health impacts, 77.78% to 65.44% over the past year. So this survey is, although it says it's not statistically relevant, it is comprehensive in terms of what the questions that they ask. And they go from producer level, which is your highest level writers, to writing staff, which would be probably your story editors, writers, assistants, etc. And across the board, there appears to be a big problem here. And what's interesting here is they don't make it, they talk specifically about TV and film. They're not really talking about streamers. At least they don't make it explicit here. But I would imagine that the dynamic is the same, roughly between the two, because so much of streaming is merging with television. And I mean, there's a whole bunch of reasons for why this is a big problem. But I just want to put it out there so that people are aware of when these shows, when these writers went on strike last year, they were in dire straits. And again, um, with my background, I am shocked that these numbers are what they are, and I am shocked that there is such difficulty among average everyday writers with being able to just put food on their table. It really is extraordinary, particularly again when you realize how much money these shows make for these companies. But going on, feature writers were also worried about having enough food for their families at higher rates, around 75% to about 55%, and sometimes or often skipped meals around 44% to about 35%. Let me just also, point out that um, this is not uncommon. They mentioned something about people of color and whatnot. These kinds of difficulties with being insecure with people of color are at much higher rates, as indicated before. So if this is average everyday writers who are working, sorted out for people of color, it's much worse. Also, just so that I remind viewers that links to this will be in Mastodon, in my Mastodon for the show, which is mastodon.vtip.me/at what you missed. And actually, let me just bring that up here. See if that comes up on your screen. There we go. Mastodon.vtip.me/at what you missed. You'll be able to find links to this and all the other articles at that Mastodon page, so you can check it out. And I am not reading the entire article. These are just the most significant portions of it. So to read the entire article, also go to Mastodon. Okay, continuing on. According to producer and EP level TV writing respondents, along with their along with feature writers making a living through writing today's food insecurity was also present in the early careers. One one reported relying, quote, on the grace of others to share meals, while others, to avoid spending money on groceries, ate leftover food from the work kitchen that was going to be thrown away. Those kinds of conditions haven't disappeared for everyone either, despite moving into upper level positions. One animation writer who works consistently for Disney revealed they live on one meal a day. I know several creatives who are on food assistance programs and more who want to be, but it's so difficult to qualify and prove need because of how our income looks. Enormous at some point, at some moments, zero at others, a staff writer said. Some for unemployment because of the contract nature of some jobs. The system is not made for those in the gig economy. Some scribes expressed that though pandemic related unemployment policy or through and pandemic related unemployment policy, they were able to use EBT to supplement their grocery budget. But though one support staffer noted, it can be challenging to get food you need with dietary restrictions, but many for those who were able to qualify saw their aid end after those policies expired. Someone asked me during the strike, have any in the AMPTP, that is it is not a union, that is the Association for the Producers, Hollywood Producers, Have any of the AMPTP signatories contributed to the groceries for writers? I wrote back to them, no. And that's not what I'm looking for. What I want is for AMPTP to go back to the bargaining table, and I want them and the WGA to land a contract where long term we won't have to worry about these issues, he said. Where people are being paid a substantial or a sustainable living, where we have faced the demons in the closet of what early career people are dealing with, that as a community we've collectively arrived at solutions that move us forward. So there it is. That is those are the writers, and the writers are usually, like I say, they're part of the three big unions, and they're usually going to have the better of the economic argument here, because they usually are paid much better than um, than the crew members. But here it is, you have this phenomena in Hollywood right now where writers are unable to make it as is. Now, you might say, well, we just had a union, they just got a better deal going. Um, I am not so certain. That is another thing that's going to take some time to look into, because there is controversy over the deal that was made by the union leaders, and that's both with WGA and with SAG. They're not happy with the deal, and I think that there are AI protections. There are other issues that are going on in the deal that they felt that didn't get addressed. But I really believe that this is something that, I don't know. It's going to be extremely difficult going forward with being able to think that you can get back to the days where this is a sustainable life. And one of the areas where that really comes out is a recent report where Tyler Perry has said that he saw something with AI creating an environment, and he was going to put $800 million into expanding out his studio, and he stopped the project indefinitely because he realized a computer can now create on a stage what a huge crew, which would cost much more, would take much more time, can do. So he's sounding the alarm, and he's both a performer and a producer, and on both areas he's sounding the alarm that this is going to, a lot of people are going to lose jobs over this. But this is the next article. This one was last week, again out of the Hollywood Reporter, and it's titled, "Is Hollywood Sleepwalking Towards Strike 3?" And the quote in this is, "I'm telling you, people are pissed." And this one is about IATSE. Again, IATSE is the industry that makes up your crew. Um, and this story is going to go into a little bit more. This is last week's Hollywood Reporter. It's by Katie Kilkenny. It's February 22nd, 2024. And it begins with, and again, the link is in Mastodon, and it starts with, "As the creator and administrator of a popular crew member focused social media hub, Diego Mariscal had a bird's eye view into the turbulent experience of his peers during Hollywood's 2023 strikes. Typically, his account, Crew Stories, supplies its more than 128,000 followers across Instagram and Facebook with wiry insider jokes about the below the line experience and lighthearted behind the scenes stories. Quote, but there was very little of that in the last 6 months. It was very serious. During the work stoppage, Mariscal, a dolly grip with the role in a film and TV sets that involves operating the dolly and assembling tracks for it, was hearing from people moving out of their houses, shacking up with their parents, and he said even contemplating suicide. When one man posted on the hub that he had moved into his car, Mariscal says the group's community found him a place to stay that same day. It reminded him of the other times crew members had gone through difficult periods during COVID-19 and after the accidental shooting death of Rust cinematographer Helena Hitchens, for example, when the tone in the on the page had taken a turn. The experience shaped the way he thinks about this year's contract negotiations for Hollywood's major crew unions, a battle that will determine the future of work for tens of thousands of on and off set workers in the post peak TV era. So again, this is a situation where we're now. Last year was the WGA, DGA, and SAG. This year, the contract is up for all of those folks who do the work to make this stuff happen. All the crew members. That's a lot of people. And they are sort of already preparing themselves for what could be. And not a lot of people are talking about this. I can tell you, for me personally, that from what I've seen, I've fought this much, and we were standing in solidarity with actors and writers. That's when it's coming. That's when it's coming to our time. I don't think there's going to be any hesitation to stand up. He says, "We're not just going to take shit. We're not just going to take a shit deal." It is near their time, just months after the conclusion of the Writers Guild of America and SAG-AFTRA strikes. Top crew unions, the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees (IATSE) and the Hollywood Teamsters Local 399, are scheduled to enter the bargaining room March 4th. I believe that's a Monday of next week. The group's IATSE representation, a broad swath of craftspeople from costume designers to cinematographers and writers' assistants, while the Teamsters membership includes drivers, dispatchers, and animal trainers and wranglers, will start together hammering out details of their benefits package, along with other unions in the Hollywood Basic Crafts Coalition. Then IATSE will begin more individualized negotiations, followed by the Teamsters, all ahead of a number of deals that are set to expire July 31st, after which a strike could theoretically begin. So this looks like to me that the two major unions that represents crews are going to work in solidarity with one another, just as writers and SAG did during the writers SAG-AFTRA strike last year. Remember, even though the writers went striking first, the actors would not cross a picket line. So that is their ability to act in solidarity, so that wherever studio or whatever lot the WGA writers were picketing, they would refuse to, actors would refuse to cross that picket line to do a show. So late night suffered greatly, I think, most explicitly during that time. IATSE International President Matthew Loeb has said that nothing is off the table, but both sides have incentive to posture at this time. Labor organizations often seek to increase their leverage at the bargaining table by talking up a strike, while management likes to throw cold water on the fiery rhetoric. So, to better understand the potential for a shutdown, the Hollywood Reporter went to some of the many crew members who were deeply affected by the last strikes to determine what the mood is on the ground and what that can tell us about the next few months. According to the Motion Picture and Television Fund, a prominent industry charity, about 80% of its calls for financial assistance during the strikes came from crew members. Meanwhile, about 24% of the more than 29,000 entertainment industry workers across film, television, theater, dance, and music, that fellow charitable organization, the Entertainment Community Fund, provided with financial aid and other services in 2023, were Teamsters and the IATSE members. Thousands showed up to the food drive organized by the crew unions and other labor partners during and after the strikes. The major issue that will be on the table this time around are not yet finalized, but will generally look familiar to observers of the Hollywood 2023 strikes. Instituting contractual language on artificial intelligence is one, while another for the Teamsters, per Lindsay Doherty, the lead negotiator for the Teamsters and the Hollywood Basic Crafts, is minimum staffing. The unions are putting an emphasis on wage increases that account for recent inflation and on boosting the union's health and pension plans after the strikes took their toll on the founding of these benefits. So, I'm sorry, on the funding of for these benefits. So one of the things that's interesting here is the unions are, I think, looking also outside of the entertainment industry, and they're looking at what happened with the other unions for instance, the car manufacturers that went on strike, UAW, for instance. They're looking at the strength of unions. You know, before all of that, the teachers' unions took to task a number of red states that were not paying them enough. And I think they're looking across the board and they're seeing the power of unions to make a comeback, to do something about wages and do something about healthcare and whatnot. And I think that is what you're seeing here, a solidarity and a view on striking and on getting decent wages and preparing for to get enough money to be able to, or get enough benefits out of these aid packages to be able to really have a better life for themselves and make substantial change in the future. Last year, the WGA and SAG-AFTRA each gained a new residual bonus rewards, rewarding successful projects on streaming platforms. In the deals which the Directors Guild of America had also retroactively secured, IATSE, at least, will be looking to make comparable and proportionate gains in that residual stream as well, per IATSE VP Michael Miller. SAG-AFTRA, moreover, broke previous wage rate increase precedents with its deal in November, securing 7% bump upon ratification of its contract, which will likely come up at the bargaining table for crew unions. IATSE will also be looking to tamp down on signatories allegedly subcontracting work that is covered under its contract. Signatories being the studios that sign on to this deal. Crew members say economic gains like these will be crucial, especially in light of recent events. Some describe the actors and writers strike as a shock to the system that highlighted the value of building savings in a volatile industry. During the strikes, IATSE lighting control programmer Mario Colley and his wife sold their home when they realized they weren't going to be able to come up with the mortgage payments. They stayed with his wife's parents until January, when they moved into a rented home that is closer to his work. Teamsters Local 399 location manager Jason McCauley went for months without work in 2023, and during the strike, his wife, a junior studio executive, was laid off. During that time, his family lived off money they were saving for a down payment for a house and didn't travel home for the holidays to save funds. He says that he and his peers have major issues to address. Some of the top priorities this year include the sustainability of the health and pension plans and raises to minimum rates that are separate from the effect of the strikes. Quote, what happened to us because of the work stoppage this year doesn't change the facts on the field, he said. It doesn't change the idea that inflation has made all of our paychecks worth a little less, the fact that the housing market is where it is, and that it costs so much to live here. That part about costing so much to live here is a direct shot to California. There is reporting that Sylvester Stallone says he's leaving for Florida. Reports all over the place about how people are leaving California because of the high taxes. So this here, this one little story amongst these folks in the entertainment industry, you might be saying, well, this is not my problem. Why are you even discussing this? Well, it is a problem. It's a problem both for the Biden administration going forward, and it's a problem for California, because someone has got to give people a reason and have got to explain why it is that folks can't buy a home and can't live the American dream anymore. And that is part of the reasons why I believe Joe Biden's poll numbers are so far down. It's because folks don't believe that the American dream is possible anymore. So California Democrats have got to address this issue, as well as Joe Biden and Democrats going forward on the national stage. So it says last year, set designing technician Anna Ocho Ozachowicz, I'm going to go with Ozachowicz, worked only a handful of days on union sets and started collecting unemployment benefits and food stamps to make ends meet. Recently, she also worked and as a lighting and grip rental house in the absence of on-set jobs coming back in full force. But sprawling days on set still remain top of mind, and tackling working hours is her top issue during the negotiation cycle. After doing a week straight on a TV show and on locations 30 miles from my home, I was like, this is nuts. What if I had kids? I don't know how people do it. But members differ on whether they'd be willing to threaten another strike if studios and streamers clash with their unions on this year's talks. Some IATSE members and Teamsters say crew members should to be able to fully get back to work before another work stoppage is threatened. Everyone's so hungry for work that I think it would be irresponsible to shut everything down, says Georgia based IATSE digital images technician Chad Oliver, who for several months during the strikes lived off of unemployment funds he took out of his union retirement plan and the down payment he and his wife had been saving for a house. Quote, which is really sad to say, Oliver adds. Work has now returned for him and his schedule is booked till June. This is another issue that could potentially hit these unions because you have to have solidarity on these things. And if you don't have solidarity, if everybody doesn't want to go in on this together, it's going to be very difficult, particularly after the last strike. People don't want to, as it said, people don't want to go back on strike again. You don't want the industry to shut down. You don't know how much bitter and how much more bitter the industry is going to be. And you also don't know how many shows will get cut, will get axed because of this. So you could make a bad problem even worse if you do decide to strike again. So this division exists in every union. You know, towards the end, I think that a lot of particularly well positioned actors were starting to get pissed that they still couldn't work, and some folks on the bottom end that are really struggling, they are holding out to make sure they get a good deal. And that division within the union could break the resolve of a union. So it's going to be really important that they monitor this aspect of folks who are really not wanting to strike again versus those who feel like a strike is no other choice. It says, according to one IATSE union insider, the grievance that erupted during the union's 2021 negotiating cycle still haven't faded. I'm telling you, these people are pissed, this source said. They're still pissed 2.5 years later. But in some cases, those grievances also extend to how IATSE handled the negotiations. After the controversial 2021 deal passed, many crew members were vocal in their displeasure on social media, while a new group, the Caucus of Rank and File Entertainment Workers, or crew, emerged to attempt to create a more democratic and uncompromising union per its website. The group, which did not directly answer THR's queries about its size, though one participant in virtual meetings says they have been attended by hundreds, published a quote demands report for IATSE leadership this negotiation cycle that notes what attendees of several meetings have said they want in a new contract. Upon negotiators, negotiations will also have to contend with the current production environment, which isn't revving up as much as some crew members might have hoped post strikes. By many accounts, the return to work since November 2023 has been excruciatingly slow. Everyone I talk to says, hopefully soon. I think we're all in the same boat of just waiting around, says IATSE writer assistant Ali Galoob, who lived with her parents during the strikes and has worked gigs outside of her core job as a personal assistant, dog sitter, house sitter, and recently as a coordinator for a lab for TV writers. Crew members who have weathered so much over the past few years will be paying close attention. This is our livelihood we're talking about. The stakes for us, the stakes are higher for us than are for the studios, argues Cully. We're in a position where we need to act in our own interest strongly now. So this is a big deal. I think this is a another story of another union that is willing to go to the mat in order to get concessions. This goes into all of the things that we have been talking around today about the economy, about politics, about Joe Biden, and about the ability for Democrats to get people out to vote. Unions are where, in my last show I talked about unions and right to work being struck down finally, or overturned in Michigan. And I think that this is another story about unions and about union rights and about the ability for workers to be able to make a living today. And one of the things the Democrats need to do is be able to tap into that rage that people have towards these corporations. We're now beginning to hear the media and people start talking about, greedflation, right? People are starting to wake up to the fact that this is really about greed in corporate America. And they hopefully, and I believe that folks will hopefully begin to realize that the only way to get around this is to band together and to work together and to hopefully, make a coordinated effort to create a better life for everybody. And I don't know if that's going to happen, but this is going to be something fascinating to watch, because I think that in the future, what we could be seeing is the next big strike, which would, again, it would shut down Hollywood, which would hurt California, a blue state. It would hurt Biden administration. And it would be another thing that Republicans can jump on all over, blaming the unions for the fact that you don't have a new movie this summer coming out. So, um, thank you all for watching today's show. Thank you for spending some of your time with me. Again, you can find links to this at our Mastodon at mastodon.vtip.me/at what you missed. Post comments up there. Let me know what you think. Let me know what your opinion is. You can also do it, of course, in the YouTube page here as well. I hope to see you on the next one. And if you liked, give a thumbs up if you like this video, and tell your friends about it. All right. Take care. I hope you have a great day.